Hello, Global Talk.
Is it still freezing cold outside?
It is. It
No.
feels like a real winter.
Tell me the temperature has gone up to 28 degrees.
Not yet. It feels like Canadian winter.
Yes, it does. Good to see you, Dr. Kim.
Great to see you.
All right, let's start things off with a quiz question, shall we?
Quiz for today is this. To express warm approval or admiration of someone or something is to, number one, praise. Number two, pray.
One more time, please.
To express warm approval or admiration for someone or something is to, number one, to praise. Number two, to pray.
Right. Number one, praise, P-R-A-I-S-E, or number two, pray, P-R-A-Y. If you know the answer, you can use our Bundy board or Kakao Talk or text in on your cell phone, pounder sharp 1045 for 50 or 101, depending on the length of your text. And we are giving away an iRiver portable Chisol Salgyungi. All right. So Peter and I mentioned earlier in the show that today we're going to be talking about Canada.
Right.
Something kind of interesting happened last week involving trade talk with the EU and Belgian farmers in particular before we get to the Canada news, right?
Right, exactly. What happened last week is quite interesting. By the way, I think we want to talk about Canada, the cool and boring country when Korea seems to be in turmoil. And many of my foreign students, foreign friends are saying this is a very hot-tempered country in both positive and constructive ways and negative and destructive ways. So we want to talk about this very boring and cool country. But something interesting happened to this boring country last week. A lot of people were watching with, the anxiety in a way, seeing what's happening between Canada and Europe. What happened was last Thursday, Canada was supposed to sign a big trade agreement with the EU. However, that was postponed all of a sudden because there was a big opposition in Brussels in the, their local government said, no, look, wait a minute, we cannot approve this. What's interesting is this deal was actually negotiated, all wrapped up more than 2 years ago. Since then, it has been being ratified by many different countries in the EU. But Belgium, all of a sudden, Belgium is an exception because they have to include their local assemblies to approve a trade deal, unlike other countries. Other countries, national government, national legislature acts, and then that's the done deal. But in Brussels, in Belgium, they have to have several local assemblies approve the such trade deals, and all of a sudden something happened in one of those local assemblies. They said, no, we're not going to approve it. So it was a very last minute. And then, as I said, the Prime Minister of Canada and the head of EU, they were scheduled to sign it Thursday, but all of a sudden they realized they couldn't do it. And for the next few days, there was a tough negotiation happening between Brussels, the EU government, and then this local assembly. And then they made a deal. By Sunday, Justin Trudeau could actually fly to Brussels and could sign it after 3 days delay. So a lot of people are wondering, what is happening here? Are we going to see another kind of Brexit style kind of shocker coming out of this deal and all that? But Thursday, anxiety. Sunday, big relief.
Okay, that's good news then. Now, on to Canada more specifically. The country is, I guess, in the news these days because a lot of people are praising what the country is doing. What is that all about?
Well, these days, we see Donald Trump talking about building walls, across their national border. And Hillary Clinton talking about no more of these free trade deals. UK talking about Brexit, and Germany changing their minds about immigration. France possibly rise of a very conservative government. In this turmoil in the West, Canada is being viewed as one exception that's keeping its cool in a way. The band leader, the famous band leader and activist and band leader of the group U2, Bono said, we need more countries like Canada in the world, basically.
That's a nice compliment.
It is. And basically what he's talking about and what people are talking about is Canada's continuing openness in this time of anxiety and jitteriness around global openness. Canada is continuing to accept as many as 300,000 people on average every year from overseas to accept as their new candidates for their new citizens. And this has been happening for the 2 decades, and it's still continuing. Canada is still seeking free trade deals like what we just talked about with major countries like the EU and perhaps Japan and so on. So people are saying, Canada looks very different. All these countries in the West seems to be going crazy, depending on how you see it. But Canada is keeping its cool. What's happening? That's the question they're asking.
One of the things that Canadians are very proud of is our multicultural society that we have. And we're so proud of that. And Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, is welcoming these refugees in. And you are seeing in Canada on local news reports stories of these refugees finding success.
Right.
There was a story from one family in Newfoundland. You're familiar with Newfoundland.
Of course, right.
And I believe they were Syrian refugees. And he was a hairdresser. And
I remember that.
He got a job at the local hairdresser shop. And the woman who owned the shop for so many years was saying, this guy is unbelievably talented at cutting hair. And he and his family were doing so well after moving to Canada and moving to Newfoundland. And seeing those news stories just makes us feel all the more proud of welcoming people in.
And the Canadian experience is not like has been set in stone forever. We remember until up to the mid 20th century, which was about 60 years ago, Canada was not totally open country, even though it has huge land. They were, for example, imposing special tax on Chinese immigrants. We're talking about early 20th century, like before 1950s or 60s. They were not they were not enthusiastic about accepting Jewish immigrants and people from India, especially Punjabis. So Canada was not a really open country, but since 1960s, Canada took this road of opening up the country and accepting people. And when I say every year 300,000 foreigners coming to this country, that means actually every year increase of 1% of the population thanks to the influx of the foreigners.
And if you look at the statistics of the population of Canada, which I believe somewhere is around 33, 34, 35 million people now, if you look at the statistics of the number of native English speakers in the country, it's roughly half.
Right.
And that just proves that point further, doesn't it?
And Canada is not trying to impose like a one language policy, even though English is like that. We know for Quebec, for instance, for decades, still, country itself is officially bilingual. If you want to work for Canadian government, you have to be able to speak and write both languages.
Yes.
But at the same time, in schools, they're teaching all these different, foreign languages like Spanish, even Ukrainian. Not to mention French, but the Islams, they are encouraged to uphold their religious traditions in local communities and so on. So, as you said, multiculturalism has been in place for the last at least a half decade, and looks like the country is succeeding big time as a now exception in this time, in this day and age.
We're going to go to a break, but before that break, can we have your quiz question one more time, please, Dr. Kim?
The quiz is to express warm approval or admiration for people or for something is to, number 1, praise, P-R-A-I-S-E. Number 2, pray, P-R-A-Y.
Keep your answers coming in. Put them on our Bundy board. Use Kakao Talk or text in on your cell phone, #1045 for 50 or 101, depending on the length of your text. And we're going to chat more with Dr. Kim after Celine Dion. Ah, yes, Canada's pride and joy. Celine Dion, Because You Loved Me. Today we're talking about Canada because last week in The Economist, there was an article saying that there should be more countries like the boring country of Canada. And it is a boring place to be at times in certain places. But there are many great things about that boring place too,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what other lessons do other countries learn, or can other countries learn from what Canada is doing now then? Does the article suggest?
Right. It tries, and but before doing so, the article points out the Canadian peculiarity in a way, why Canada can't afford to be this way. And number 1, of course, is the low population density, meaning that country has so much land to fill with newer immigrants. They still have the room to be that way. And then second one is the geographic advantage. It's not like Italy or Spain or other like Germany even, have borders with the neighbors right next to them. It has a great wall called the United States, protecting them from any kind of inflows from further down the south. And it has ocean surrounding it, so it's isolated, well protected, huge land. And so those are some of the the peculiarities and the characteristics that makes Canada, afford to be able to different. But then again, the overall, despite all these advantages, still what Canada achieves, the sense of modesty in a way, sense of balance.
Yeah.
Especially looking at the Americans in hubris sometimes, once in a while, going extremes. A lot of people noticed that Canada was able to achieve this kind of sense of balance and modesty. And the Economist magazine points out lots of good policies that has been introduced by the centrist government of the new government. Stephen Harper, for example, Stephen Harper, I think was the name of the previous prime minister. He was going towards a little bit more on the conservative side for a while, but this new government of Justin Trudeau has brought the Canadian polity back to the centrist position, and they're raising taxes on some side, and then addressing the question of inequality quite effectively. But at the same time, on the trade and the immigration policy side, they're keeping the liberalist position. So this combination, the open-mindedness about being able to mix different policies of different orientation, that the Economist magazine points out as one of the secret for Canadian success.
We have a good sense of humor about our relationship with the United States as well. For example, did you ever see this T-shirt? Canada.
I've seen so many different T-shirts about
this
that.
This is the T-shirt, though. Canada, America's hat.
Explain it to a Korean audience.
How do you
say
explain that? Yeah, that's so funny. We
right on the top.
We have, yeah, exactly. It's right on the top of the United States.
It's not even a jacket. It's just a hat.
We are America's hat. Yeah. Got to have a good sense of humor about stuff, right? Yeah.
Right.
Dr. Kim, the answer to your quiz question, please.
The answer to the quiz question, to express warm approval or admiration for someone or something, is, of course, number one, to praise.
To praise. And Chae Young-shil Nim, congratulations. You'll be receiving the iRiver Portable Chisol Salgyungi. Congratulations to you. Dr. Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good week. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.